Okay, I am so excited because I don't really come on this live much. I'm usually on my other account, which is Hope is Speaking, but I come on to speak to a lot of the flight attendants, and I get a lot of great messages. I just received one this morning from a flight attendant who's going to training, and she said, "What should I give me some tips to go into training? What should I know? What should I do before I go to the training center?" And it's just like what I posted. It's not what you need to pack. There's nothing that you need to pack. There's nothing that you need to do except just be excited about becoming a flight attendant. And I can speak about a lot of this stuff because I can't be held accountable uh, from any company. So I flew for a major carrier for 15 years. And then I took early retirement, and now I'm a professional speaker. Therefore, there's certain things I can say that people on the line can't say because they're still on the line. So you can't always just say certain things. But a lot of my content, it's always going to be about confidence, but especially with flying, there's you just go into it knowing that it is, to me, the most amazing career because you build yourself. Most of the time you're by yourself, or you meet people from every walk of life, whether it is a different culture, a different language, a different gender, everything. And so you get to build yourself. And one of the most beautiful things is you're able to expand because, especially once you start traveling, you see that if you're born and raised in the US, this isn't how things are done around the world. So to regularly leave the country, to regularly be in these situations where you have to think outside of what your normal logical brain would tell you. These are all the things I learned as a flight attendant, and especially as a flight attendant for a long time. If you've been flying 6 months to a year or even under 5 years, of course, it's the same job. We encounter things. But as you begin to acquire years within flying, things change. Also, I had a bunch of different bases. I like to say I had the best flying career because I just made it work. And that's a lot of my content. You have to make this work. I started in DC, and so I flew out of DC, which is Dulles, IAD, National, and Baltimore. Then I transferred to Heathrow, London. I was there for several years, and then I came back to the US and I was based out of JFK. So I worked out of JFK and LaGuardia. And then I was Newark based, so Newark, JFK, and LaGuardia, but mainly Newark. And then when I moved to Hawaii, I I was based in San Francisco, but I would drop all my trips and just fly out of Honolulu because that was something we could do. So, when I talk about my flight attendant stories, a lot of people don't have they have experience, but it's in a smaller scale, meaning it's a lot different being based in, say, New York compared to a regional carrier where you only have a handful of flights and you're going to local places. Out of DC, of course, we flew around the world. Out of Heathrow, that was a whole nother experience because I was already living outside of the US, and acquiring all that knowledge of living outside the US and working outside of the US and having my entire life be based outside the US, which I loved. And there's a lot that you learn. I made a post about not rooming up with the people that you meet in flight attendant training because you meet people in training and they're there for the job, but you don't really know them. You're there for the job. And I had that experience where I had a flatmate or a roommate who was a flight attendant, and she moved out while I was on a trip. And that is something, because if you have a roommate and they move out, that's one thing, especially if you know that they live inside the country, you can go to their job. It's a completely different experience if you're living with someone and they move out and they could be anywhere in the world. And I was on a trip in London and I came back and she wasn't there. So it was a funny story. I grew from it. It's not anything that I find as negative, because it's just your ability to pivot. And especially with flying, it's a lot of that. It's your ability to pivot. It's your ability to keep going, because a lot of the content, or there's some content with flight attendants that are always talking about maybe the lack of support or the lack of payment or you got to make it work. Do you want it or not? Because a complaint is just an observation. So you can say how much you're not getting paid. You can say how much you don't feel supported. You can say, but make it work. Make it work. And that's the same thing in life. You have to make it work, whether it's starting off being a flight attendant or just in life. There's a point where this is happening. So what? Make it work. If you're not going to make it work, then quit. If you choose to make it work, if you choose to find a solution, if you choose to make it work to your benefit, then you grow. And that's the most important thing, is to grow. If you're not going to grow, then what are you doing? And so I also made a post today about just going into training, because there's many people who are excited, but they're nervous. They're nervous about training. They're nervous if they have packed all the right things. They're just nervous. And it's not even about what you pack. Forget about what you pack. You can always buy another shirt. You can always buy some workout leggings. You can buy shoes. But if you go into it with that knowing that, yeah, I'm here and I am going to go through this and I am going to be successful and I am going to see the world, then that's it. You don't need much else. But the thought of like, what do I need to prepare? All you need is the willingness to know that you can do it. That's all you need. The willingness to know that you are able. The willingness to like keep going, because it can be quite an experience to be in flight attendant training, and you are being watched, and you're not competing against anyone, but there are people that feel that if they tell on you or if they observe your behavior and tell it to someone, it benefits you. Just keep your goal of being a successful flight attendant in training as the goal. As the goal. The other thing is, it's a professional job. Like, and I would know because I went, who I was as a flight attendant my first year is completely different from who I became by my 15th year. I'd seen so many things. I really grew up through traveling with the company I was with, and I took every risk. The other thing I would tell any flight attendant, take risks, travel, uh, change bases. If you can, change bases. If you can, figure it out, because that's what makes you grow. A lot of times you'll meet people, especially when flying, as flight attendants, and I still find this strange that, thank you for the likes, flight attendants who have never changed bases. Now, the only commute I had was like a 20-minute commute. So technically I commuted because I did live between New York and London, but that wasn't the same. My real commute was from Maui to Honolulu, which is like a 20-minute commute. I never did a commute where you're flying 4 to 6 hours. No. I was commuting because I lived in Maui, and I would fly out of Honolulu, and there was flights every hour from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's something completely different. I don't think commuting makes your life any easier. It makes you more tired. It brings more stress. It's just more of all of that. So I don't advise commuting, but it may work for you. It may be the best thing for you. I don't know. I believe that you find what's best for you. But I do think it's a great thing when you do try out new bases and you do fly different routes and you do travel on your off days and you find ways, especially outside of the US. When you travel, you will notice it is not nearly as costly, and being a flight attendant, you will definitely see that there's a lot of discounts that we get, and you may have friends or people that you know from that airport where you're going, and they may be able to put you up, or they know about accommodations. When I say make it work, make it work. I'm not about the complaining. And I do graciously and with a positive tone respond to those comments on my page of, well, I'm a new flight attendant. I can't afford to travel. You can. You just aren't finding the way. You can. You can. I had someone say I couldn't eat for days. If you can't eat for days, that's not the company's problem. That's a personal problem, especially if you're a young, beautiful flight attendant. But I'm sharing all of this because, yeah, that's what I did. A year and a half into my flying career, I transferred to Heathrow. I transferred to London. I made it work. And it wasn't about it being easy. It was, I'm going to make this work. I want to be based internationally. I want to be in a completely different society surrounding everything. Maybe it wasn't easy, but I made it easy for me because I had the willingness. And that's with flying, but that's with anything. You have to have the willingness to do it. You have to have the willingness to be flexible. You have to be the willingness to be uncomfortable for so long that you snap into a space of, I don't like this discomfort. And I find that powerful with anything in life. You get to a point where the discomfort is enough to shift. It's enough. Like, I've been uncomfortable for so long, I'm going to do something about this. And I also made a post about, thank you for liking the live. A post about, for people who have uteruses, when you first start flying, your cycle sometimes is thrown off. And I had never saw a piece of content like that. Hi, Richie. I come and jump into your lives. I watch you on your layovers or on the stair stepper or on the treadmill, and it's interesting. Yeah, well, that's what happened to me. And I remember specifically because it was a month where I was on reserve, and I was like I had like Beijing, and then I had Kuwait City, and then I had somewhere in Europe, And then, so every week I was really in a different place of the world. And my cycle has always been regular, but it changed because your body is like, doesn't know. And it's helpful to be aware of that. So, like nothing is wrong now. Always, if you're putting yourself into some peculiar spaces, then your regular cycle may not be from your traveling. But if that's not the case, a lot of that can really confuse your body. And that's what it did for me. And my doctor even said, like, it may take time because I was still new to flying. And that even happens if you travel now. And when I travel now, it's not nearly as much as I used to, but it changes your body. And just know that traveling is hard on your body. It's really hard on your body. It's hard on your sleep schedule. It's hard on the regularities that you have every day. It's hard on your physical nutrition because you may not be able to eat what you normally eat. You may be going to restaurants or things of this nature. And I found that a lot of flight attendants would just assume because you feel like you're on vacation. And so they would have that piece of cake or ice cream or pizza. Well, you're doing that 3 to 4 times a week. That adds up. So if you normally eat lighter or healthier foods or more fruits and vegetables, and you go to just, I'm grabbing pizza, that's the only thing open. I'm grabbing a burger and fries, that's the only thing open. I'm going to have this dessert because I want it. It will show in your body. And more so, you feel heavy. So when you're traveling that much, you feel really heavy. And that's not always like the best feeling to carry with you, feeling that heaviness. But it just comes from aviation and traveling. And a lot of times I stress this. There's a big difference from someone who travels 4 times a year to like flight attendants. There's a big difference. As much as a person may feel they travel as much as a flight attendant, you don't. And so it does affect you. It affects your body, it affects friendships, relationships, but you learn to manage it. You do learn to manage it. You do find a system that works for you, and it does take time. It takes time to find that system. It takes time to adjust. It takes time to know that some of your regular friends, sometimes the dynamics change. All of this takes time. It all takes time. But the time that you put into it is worth it. So I really enjoy talking to all flight attendants because we all have this knowledge that sometimes isn't heard or shared. So it's helpful to share the knowledge that we have, but it's helpful to know that you do have what it takes. You have everything you need. You will learn. It may be a learning curve and you'll get through it. And all of the craziness, there seems to be much more focus on aviation irregularities now. As someone, I did have an emergency landing. I have had smoke in the cabin. I've had several medical emergencies. I've had, you name it. Like, you name it. The only thing I didn't have, we almost had an evacuation, but we did not. There is not an increase. These things have always happened, and flight attendants know this. For me, it did change my outlook because after my emergency landing, it was like that was a little bit different. That was a little bit different because that was the second one I had in my career, but it was, Yeah, was it uncomfortable? Yeah, a bit, but that's just like a part of it. So I don't believe that there's an increase in aviation irregularities. I believe there's an increase on it being reported. So I had a full aviation career. And I say that all the time because most people don't jump to different bases. There's people who do. And I just jumped to different bases. I mean, from DC to London was a world of difference. From London to JFK was a world of difference. Um, San Francisco, I mean, I was living in Hawaii, so I wasn't really in the mix of San Fran, but it's different. So even as a flight attendant, you can constantly expand your horizons, especially if there's a new base. I know with my company, they would pay for your moves, and there's all of these things that you could do. There was a lot of the benefits that I used. I used all my benefits. We had 75% off overnight FedEx. I would FedEx all of my Christmas presents home because 75% off overnight FedEx, that's like an incredible deal. But you could do that with your things, and you can use Comat, which is like company shipping. There's all of these things. So I share this because a lot of times new flight attendants will always speak about what they don't have or the money they're not making, and I get it. But that's when you make it work, and that's when you actually realize like how resilient you are, because you will get to a point within your career that you may just look back like, how did I do it? And I also wanted to be the woman that I am now. Like I always wanted to be that like Renaissance woman, a multilingual, knew the best restaurants around the world and had people around the world, or just felt that comfort to just start anything. It will take discomfort to get to that comfortable place. And that was all throughout flying. I was going to make a post and I still will. I don't, a degree is great, but a flight attendant, you are put into the most unpredictable situations that when you figure it out, it's like, what can't I figure out? I remember being lost in Beijing, and this is before Google Maps and just being able to figure it out. If you're lost in a place where you don't speak the native language, or you can't read the native language, and you don't have a device that can aid you, then what? You can't just cry. I mean, you can, but that won't get you back to the hotel. So, being in these being in these predicaments breeds resilience. It breeds bravery. It breeds courage. Um, and intuitively, you have to have this. I think the job brings it out, but intuitively, you already have it. Being a flight attendant or being in no, I'm only speaking about aviation. It brings it out. And there's only certain people who are able to ride that wave, because many people, when I talk to people, they say, that was like my dream to be a flight attendant, but they never did it. And there's reasons why. Sometimes it was the time that they were born, it was a different day and age. Sometimes it was the lack of support from family. Now, what you want to do, you're going to have to learn that you are the only person that can do it. Whether your family supports you, whether your friends support you, either verbally, spiritually, financially, that is helpful. But if they don't, you will have to do it. And also, with being a flight attendant, you learn yourself because you are by yourself. You are by yourself. and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to travel and be so comfortable by yourself, so comfortable to just go into a restaurant or go shopping or meet people and feel that comfort of I am safe and I can do it all. That is beautiful, but it will take the discomfort of being on your own really to get to a space of comfort of course, I'm with myself and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And I also say with yourself rather than by yourself because I'm with myself. I'm not by myself. I'm with me. I'm the most amazing person I want to be with. So that's helpful too. And that is why I came on. I will be coming on more. I will be posting this to my Life with Oatmeal YouTube. So if you don't see my live, I will be on my YouTube page, Life with Oatmeal, and they will become longer. I have a community of flight attendants and who are here to support, and I'm here to support, and I post often. And it's not all flight attendants. With pleasure, is it Abike? Are you flying or do you just want to hear? Because either way, it's both. Um, yeah, I have great stories. I do, especially like switching bases. But I love it. And I will speak about why I loved it enough to say, okay, what's next? Because there's that part too. And you will get tired. The best thing about flying is you can always just take time. You can take time off, but when you have to be meticulous about your health because it'll take a toll to a certain extent, but you get to choose. You get to choose. So that's my short live for tonight. I Friday, probably Saturday, I'll be back on. Sometimes I come on the day after, but tomorrow I'll be on my other page, which is Hope is Speaking. That is my speaking page as a motivational speaker, which I do now. So those lives are much longer, and I am just really starting on this side. However, I hope this was helpful. If you haven't followed me, follow me back or follow me, like, share. Thank you. With pleasure. I'm glad you like it. Excellent, excellent. I'm always posting. I actually like this account more than my Hope is Speaking because it's light and fun. Um, my Hope is Speaking I've had for longer and it is all confidence and uplifting content, but I like this side. So let me just follow you back. Boom. Just followed you back. So I will see you Saturday unless I come on tomorrow. This will be uploaded with pleasure onto my Life with Oatmeal YouTube and fly safe, aspire to fly, or just have an excellent evening. Okay, bye.